Now, when Mr. Moses Baden challenges the governor of the Bank of Ghana to make sure that regulation is in tandem with innovation, I believe it's fair that he responds by speaking to us on resetting Ghana's economy, policy response, and strategies for building a resilient economy post-COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Maxwell Opoku-Afari.
Your Excellency, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Ministers, Members of Parliament, Chairman of the 5th CEO Summit, Captains of Industries and CEOs, the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is always a great pleasure to be part of this annual CEO Summit. And I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to speak on the topical issue, resetting Ghana's economy, policy responses, and strategies for building a resilient economy post-COVID pandemic. A lot has been said about digitization, so I want to focus on policy so that we put the two together. We are all witnesses to the ravaging economic, health, and social effects of the COVID pandemic on the global economy. Indeed, as we speak, some countries are going through either a second or third wave with its associated human toll and continuous economic devastation. As a country, we have also gone through these challenges, and the topic for discussion today is timely. Ladies and gentlemen, my remarks will start with two key questions. First, what was the state of Ghana's economy before COVID? Then second, what was the impact of COVID on the economy? Then we shift focus on strategies needed to reset the economy amid and post-COVID pandemic. On the first part, what was the state of the Ghanaian economy before the pandemic? Your Excellency, implementation of sound macroeconomic policies between 2017 and 2019 significantly improved the macroeconomic fundamentals of the Ghanaian economy. Broadly, the economy was characterized by strong growth, averaging 7% over the period, and inflation declining to single digits and within the Bank of Ghana's medium-term target of 8 plus or minus 2%. Unwinding of the large macroeconomic imbalances resulted in lower fiscal and current account deficits, accompanied by 3 consecutive years of trade surpluses, the first time we've had that in over decades. The country's reserve buffers also improved, providing some anchor to exchange rate stability. Public debt policies were strengthened and the debt profile restructured to lessen the repayment burden. This created some fiscal space to support the implementation of growth-enhancing policy initiatives by government. Alongside this, the Bank of Ghana implemented comprehensive financial sector reforms, which resulted in well-capitalized, strong and liquid banking sector, well-positioned to support the country's growth and transformation agenda. With this background, the policy direction at the start of 2020 was to further consolidate the achievements and move the country to the next stage of the development agenda. Consequently, prudent and complementary monetary and fiscal policies were programmed. First, monetary policy was to steer inflation further to low and stable levels. For the financial sector, the successful completion of the cleanup had improved prudential regulations, strengthened efficiency, and refocused the banking sector to its intermediary role to finance the growth needs of the country. Second, fiscal policy was geared towards aggressive tax reforms and pro-growth initiatives in the agriculture and industrial sectors to expand the productive capacity of the economy. And last but not the least, other structural reforms were initiated to increase efficiency of the public sector through digitization, and by so doing, formalizing the economy and improving the ease of doing business. Then what was the impact of COVID on the economy? Ladies and gentlemen, this was where the Ghanaian economy was at the start of 2020, until March, when the COVID pandemic disrupted the rather very strong economic outlook. The severity of the pandemic prompted restricted movements, lockdowns, and border closures to halt its spread. This resulted in a slump in economic activity and almost wiped off the gains achieved over the last 3 years. For instance, GDP slowed down to 0.4% at the end of 2020, the lowest in decades, compared with pre-COVID projection of 6.8%. Inflation spiked from single digit to double digits, peaking at 11.4% in July 2020, driven mainly by food price pressures due to the lockdown measures before easing to 10.4% in December 2020. The disruptions in global supply chains adversely impacted trade activity. Businesses faced supply constraints amid weak consumer demand, which set off cost-cutting measures, including reduction in working hours, layoffs of workers, and wage cutbacks, worsening the unemployment situation in the country. Fiscal pressures from the health sector and the social consequences of the restricted movements mounted and disrupted the fiscal consolidation process. As a result, additional expenditures related to the COVID-19, coupled with revenue shortfalls on account of the economic slowdown and sharp drop in oil revenues, elevated the 2020 fiscal deficit to 11.7% of GDP, from the pre-COVID projection of 4.7% of GDP. These unanticipated fiscal developments also push up the stock of debt to 74.6% of GDP at the end of 2020 from 62.4% of GDP recorded in 2029. Your Excellency, the combined demand and supply shocks from COVID required decisive and swift fiscal, monetary, and macroprudential policy responses to moderate economic damage. The policy responses included fiscal stimulus packages, including several social interventions. To complement this, the Bank of Ghana lowered the monetary policy rate by 150 basis points and implemented other macro-prudential measures to ensure adequate liquidity within the financial sector during the pandemic. The push for financial digitization was intensified with the removal of transfer costs for minimum transactions on mobile networks and the Universal Quick Response Code for payments across banks, telcos, fintechs, and merchants were implemented to promote e-commerce and e-transactions. Ladies and gentlemen, the economic cost of the COVID shock in the terms of foregone growth in its implication for employment and poverty reduction, infrastructure development, and economic expansion are enormous and will require carefully crafted strategies to reset the economy back to stability and growth. On resetting the economy during and post-COVID, Your Excellency, lessons drawn from other countries on building back better from the pandemic indicate that a flattened COVID curve is a necessary condition prior to massive rollout of policies and strategies designed to reset the economy. The reasoning being that subsequent COVID flare-ups could potentially slow the economic process. Based on this, the short-term strategies to reset Ghana's economy should be able to first sustain the flattened curve that we see in the country at the moment. By this, priority must be given to health sector policies and other supportive measures, tracing and treatment alongside mass vaccination rollouts should continue to achieve some form of herd immunity. The flattened curve will keep the economy open for business, provide some certainty to the economic outlook, and prevent diversion of resources to any resurgence of the pandemic. Second, we must maintain the COVID policy responses that we have introduced to sustain the ongoing V-shaped recovery. To a large extent, the COVID policy responses, that is accommodative fiscal and monetary policy, macroprudential measures, and other initiatives, have proved timely and helped moderate what could possibly have been a worse outcome for the Ghanaian economy. Already, the implementation of these policies have spurred some recovery in the economy, evidenced by improvement in the bank's high-frequency economic indicators for the first quarter of 2021. Inflation has eased and declined back to single digits in April 2021, reaching 8.5%. The exchange rate remains stable business and consumer confidence have bounced back to pre-COVID levels. The bank's high-frequency indicators have also rebounded to near pre-pandemic levels, and also the banking sector remains strong with the support of the macro-prudential measures and continues to play its intermediary role to boost growth post-COVID. Over time, Mr. Chairman and Your Excellency, the strategy should include innovative and actionable macroeconomic policies to unwind the COVID-related fiscal excesses and lower the public debt to sustainable levels. Broadly, we need prudent fiscal policies in place to be able to anchor the recovery. And thankfully, the 2021 budget has already reset fiscal policy on a consolidation path, with the deficit projected to decline to 9.5% of GDP and unwind over the medium term to under 5% by 2024. This will ensure medium-term debt sustainability and achieve the set fiscal targets. Domestic revenue mobilization through tax reforms have to be stepped up. And here, the ongoing national digitization program will be supportive. Already, the Ghana card and TIN numbers have been merged, broadening the tax base. Over time, this is expected to result in some revenue gains for the government. We also need to continue expenditure rationalization programs that are pro-growth and promote value for money projects along the line. There is also the need for complementary monetary policy and prudential measures to be able to sustain the recovery. Monetary policy and financial sector policies should be designed to anchor the disinflation process, create supportive frameworks for credit enhancement, digitization, and enhance payment platforms to support growth. We also need effective implementation of pro-growth, and that, in that case, the Ghana Cares program remains a strong anchor for that. The socioeconomic consequences of the pandemic needs to be addressed, and the Ghana Cares program is in the right direction. Among others, it seeks to stabilize, revitalize, and transform the economy to create jobs and prosperity over the next 3 years. We also need continued investment in the public health infrastructure over the medium term, and to be able to ensure that we improve the country's preparedness to adequately handle future health crises. Digitization to improve the business environment is very critical. Pushing the boundaries for the economy-wide digitization through the measure of the national ID system or the Ghana card with other national databases to enhance transparency, facilitate seamless financial transactions, and reduce costs of doing business is very critical to the transformation and the recovery. In conclusion, Your Excellency, resetting the economy back to resilience will be a gradual process over the next 2 or 3 years and will require our collective and collaborative support and burden sharing to build back better. For the Bank of Ghana, we are committed to ensuring that the banking and other non-bank financial institutions remain resilient, inclusive, and supportive of resetting Ghana's post-COVID economy back to stability and growth. Thank you very much for your attention.